Let us now look at network architecture of LTE. The entire LTE network is composed of the radio access network, which is known as Evolved UTRAN, which is over here, and the core network known as Evolved Packet Core EPC. In module 1 also we have discussed this kind of network, right? The same thing has been repeated with some more explanation. Okay, now let us look into the various components of this network one by one. First one is user equipment. User equipment is our mobile terminal, provides measurements that indicate channel conditions to the network. Next is eNode B. This is also called as base station. It interfaces our user equipment or mobile to the network or to the EPC or the packet core network. It includes some of the functions such as radio bearer management, that is allocation of different frequency for different users, uplink downlink dynamic radio resource management, data packet scheduling, mobility management. These are the functions of eNode B. Next is mobility management entity. You can see over here the mobility management entity. It is interfaced to servicing gateway through connection S11 and S1 MME to this S1 node. We'll look what is S1 node later, but what are the functions of MME we'll check first. The function of MME is to control plane of legacy serving GPRS support nodes and manages mobility aspects such as gateway selection and tracking area list management. It is same as the serving GPRS support node in our 3G networks, which does the control actions required for mobility of one user from one area to another area. Okay, and next one is serving gateway. Serving gateway terminates the interface towards EUTRAN and routes data packets between EUTRAN and EPC. Serving gateway, you can see it is taking all the information from EUTRAN and it routes the data to different network components. Perform local mobility anchor point for inter eNode B handovers from one base station to another base station. Handovers are taken place, right? That is performed by serving gateway. It also provides an anchor for inter 3 GPP mobility. And next one, the serving gateway and MME may be implemented in one physical node or separate physical nodes. Here it is mentioned as separate physical nodes, but they can be in a single node, these two. Okay. Next is the other responsibilities include lawful interception and charging and some policy enforcement. These are the functions of serving gateway. Next one is packet data network gateway or PDN gateway. It terminates the SGI interface towards the packet data network and it routes the data packets between the EPC and the external PDN. Key node for policy enforcement, charging data collection, provides the anchor point for mobility with non-3GPP accesses. The external PDN may be any kind of IP network as well as the IP multimedia subsystem domain. The PDN gateway and the serving gateway may be implemented in one physical node or separated physical nodes. So the main work of PDN gateway is to get the data from serving gateway and route it into other packet data networks which are outside our EPC core. And also PCRF is, it deals with charging and the particular scheme or the uh, offer you are availing with. Okay. And next one is S1 interface. It separates the EUTRAN and EPC. It is split into two parts. This is S1 interface. Okay, it separates this EUTRAN and EPC, and it has two parts. One is S1U, where it carries traffic data between the eNode B and the serving gateway. Okay, and another one is S1MME. It does signaling only interface between the eNode B and MME. Two connections you can see in the block diagram, correct? Next is X2 interface. This X2 interface is between eNode Bs. This is between eNode Bs. It is again having two functionalities. First functionality is an interface, sorry, first is X2C. It is the control plane interface between eNode Bs, that is only controlling action between two base stations will be taken care in this mode. In the other mode, it will work as user plane interface between eNode Bs, that is data from one user to another user is transferred via base stations. Okay. Next is home subscriber server. It is responsible for the service authorization and user authentication. This holds all our data when you move from one area to another area, your complete information is transferred from one base station to the nearest base station, which will be actually stored in home subscriber server placed at the particular area. Okay. Next one is serving GPRS support node. It controls the packet sessions and manages the mobility of the user equipment for GPRS network. When we use GPRS networks, when there is no 4G network, you will go for GPRS or GRAN network. Then this node will support our mobility. Okay, these are the components of our end-to-end LTE network architecture. The next topic is radio interface protocols. The LTE radio interface protocol is designed based on layered protocol stack, which involves control plane protocols, user plane protocols. Here, we need to understand what is this radio interface protocols. Radio interface protocol is nothing but the rules which we use to govern the communication between user equipment and the base station. Okay, now it is composed of these different protocols like RRC, PDCP, RLC, MAC and physical layer. So we'll study these layers one by one. RRC means radio resource control. This layer performs the control plane functions including paging, maintenance and release of RRC connection, security handling, mobility and QoS management. Packet data convergence protocol PDCP. There is only one PDCP entity at the eNode B and the UE per bearer. The main functions of the PDCP sublayer include IP packet header compression and decomposition based on the robust header compression or ROHC protocol, ciphering of data and signaling, integrity protection for signaling. These are the functions of PDCP sublayer. Next one is radio link control protocol. The main functions of RLC sublayer are segmentation and concatenation of data units, error correction through the automatic repeat request protocol, in sequence delivery of packets to the higher layers. Okay, and this radio link control operates in three modes. What the exact meaning of radio link control is? It is first segment the data and concatenates, error correction through automatic repeat request it can do, in sequence delivery of packets to the higher layers is maintained by this radio link control, and it can operate in three modes. The first mode is the transparent mode or TM. It is the simplest one without RLC header addition, data segmentation or concatenation, and it is used for specific purposes such as random access. The second one is the unacknowledged mode or UM, allows the detection of packet loss and provides packet reordering, reassembly, but does not require retransmission of the missing protocol data units or PDUs. Here the third one is the acknowledged mode or AM. It is the most complex one and it is configured to request retransmission, which was missing in the UM mode. Okay, there only detection was there. Here it is request retransmission of the missing PDUs or protocol data units in addition to the features supported by the UM mode. There is only one RLC entity at the E node B and the UV per bearer. That means for particular user equipment there will be only one RLC. Okay, on the user side as well as on the E node B side. Next one is medium access control or MAC. Main functions of this MAC layer are error correction through the hybrid ARQ mechanism, mapping between logical channels and transport channels, multiplexing or demultiplexing of RLC PDUs onto transport blocks, priority handling between logical channels of one user equipment, priority handling between user equipments by means of dynamic scheduling. It is responsible for transport format selection of scheduled user equipments, which includes selection of modulation format, code rate, multiple input, multiple output rank, and power level. These are the functionalities of MAC layer. Next one is the physical layer. The main function is actual transmission and reception of data in forms of transport blocks, and it is responsible for various control mechanisms such as signaling of HARQ feedback, signaling of scheduled allocations, and channel measurements, whether the channels are viable for the communication or not. If the errors are more, the condition of channel and the parameters of channel will be measured, and that feedback will be sent to the server, where the server or eNode B examines and takes a corrective actions. In this particular figure, we are going to examine how the packet flow in the user plane takes place. The IP packet is added with an header of PDCP in the PDCP sublayer, and then it is transferred to RLC sublayer, where RLC header will be added, and we can see that the packet size is go on increasing. Next is MAC layer. MAC layer header will be added, and finally the packet block is now given to physical layer so as to transport it over physical medium. Okay, I hope you have understood the concept which we have discussed today. And if you have any queries, you can always contact me or you can message me in the comment section. And in next session, we are going to look on hierarchical channel structure of LTE and other related topics. Thanks for watching.